This episode of The Young Turks brought to you by Jack Threads for the win.
Gaddafi apparently has turned the tide. 10 days ago, he was in massive trouble. The protesters and the rebels were advancing on Tripoli, which is Gaddafi's base in Libya, obviously. And it looked like Gaddafi had offered terms. The rebels, according to the reports, turned down those terms of surrender. Basically, Gaddafi would get to keep some of his money, and he and his family would have left the country. Well, at the time, I was concerned because I said, hey, listen, anytime you got a chance to take Gaddafi out, I even said at the time, give him the money, let him go, man, because it's more important to get the country than it is to seek justice against Gaddafi. Well, if those reports were right, and these reports are right, it looks like I might have been unfortunately correct. Gaddafi has now retaken some of the important towns, including Zawara that they were fighting over. Misrata, which is the third largest town, is besieged, and there is no supplies going in or out. There's no food, there's no water, there's no medicine. The doctors there are in a panic. They're asking the world community for help, and apparently that help is not forthcoming. And in a very critical city, Ajdabiya is also being besieged by Gaddafi forces, and it looks like somewhat successfully so. They look like they're on the verge of toppling that city and regaining it for Gaddafi rather than the rebel forces. Now that would be important because then they could use that to fight back against the rebel headquarters, which is in Benghazi. If they take Ajdabiya, then they can attack Benghazi by land, air, and sea, and that would be tough to recover from. Look, the forces that Gaddafi have are better armed, they have more resources, and they're better trained. So they know how to do flank maneuvers, and the rebels are largely civilians. Some of them are fighting with weapons that they've captured. Others don't even have weapons. They're going to fight Gaddafi's forces with shovels and whatever they can grab from home. So to say that they are outmatched in terms of resources is a wild understatement. So now in the midst of all of this, the rebels still had obviously a great chance because they were winning about 10 days ago by all accounts. But what happened was Libya used its air force. Now, in the meanwhile, the West has been debating whether there should be a no-fly zone or not. And there are two sides to this. The French and the English side, which says, let's go, let's do the no-fly zone, and now is the time to act. In fact, French Foreign Minister Alain Juppé, if I'm pronouncing that right, said, quote, if we had used military force last week to neutralize some airstrips and the several dozen planes that they have, perhaps a reversal taking place to the detriment of the opposition wouldn't have happened. Okay? Now that's a very clear statement. The people in opposition to that is Germany and the United States. The United States is not opposed to a no-fly zone. They are considering it. But again, I hate to say it, but it's a classic Obama move. He's like, should we do no-fly zone? Should we not? I don't know. Oh, God, I'm going to consider this for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. No. In this case, you either do it or you don't. And I actually don't have a strong opinion on it because I understand the downsides. Richard Lugar, a Republican from Indiana, but someone I respect in foreign policy, and I know someone Obama respects in foreign policy, came out and said we should not do a no-fly zone for the same reasons that I'm concerned. He says, what if one of them gets shot down and then we're engaged? Do we use the Navy? If we use the Navy, what happens if they get engaged? Who's going to pay for it? It can have drawn-out consequences. Now, Lugar says you need, for Congress to declare war before you can do a no-fly zone. Now, that's a bit comical coming from the Republican Party that invaded Iraq without any declaration of war, let alone Afghanistan. It's absurd. So that part is nonsense, right? I mean, would they want declaration of war in all these regards? Yes, that's the correct way of doing it. But for Republicans to say that at this juncture is comical, right? But it's a fair question about the no-fly zone. But here's what I need. I need a decision 10 days ago. Look, you gotta, and I know I know things move a little slower in diplomacy and in international relations than I would like, but at the same time, if it moves so slow, then it becomes irrelevant. Okay, maybe not 10 days ago, but a week ago, at least 5 days ago, there needed to be a decision one way or another. And it's all right for Obama to come out and say, look, we've considered all the consequences, and ultimately we agree with the Germans, and we don't think it's a good idea. We don't want us getting drawn into that war. Okay, fair enough. Or come out and say, we're going to do it, and you get the planes up in the air right away. If they recapture Ajdabiya and Misrata, and they're on the verge of public Benghazi, it's already way too late. Well, I mean, I can see us finally coming to a decision after Benghazi has fallen, in which case Gaddafi has recaptured the whole country. What's the point?
Jack Threads is a new sponsor for TYT. They're a members-only online shopping club, but because you know us, you're going to get in. Aren't we cool? But here's the key part to it, 80% off. Hello, up to 80% off of some of the top apparel lines in the country. Game over.
Right.
So go to jackthreads.com/TYT because it's free to join, and you get all those discounts, and you avoid the pain in the ass. The ending of this commercial is a little schwang wang wang.